And the password is capital S, number 4, lowercase p, lowercase I, lowercase n, lowercase t, exclamation mark, then lowercase COX, Cox.
I want to pull up these articles, so.
Oh, I wonder what it shows on Twitter.
Ooh. Gave me an invalid.
Let me do it real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say. Here you go. I can pass it over. Real light and easy. I love this machine.
How old is it?
I got it in October. It's from work. They gave me a new one.
It's Captain's Lair.
Yep, good to go. Thank you.
What I need to change my shirt? I'm like baking in the sun right there.
Yeah.
I need a wardrobe person, man.
A whole assistant team for makeup and wardrobe. Polish crypto tax. And then we're going to do that Apple interledger thing was great.
Yeah, I don't know how much meat there is to it.
There's none. That's why I like it. It's just funny because it's like it's what we said. Me and a buddy of mine like a year ago. We were making money off Ripple or XRP.
Maybe to connect headphones. Number 1.
Facebook.
See which number I am here. Number 2. You want to switch headphones real quick?
Sure. All right, cool.
Cool. Thank you. So you're number 2. I'm number 1.
Okay. Check, check.
Cool.
Check, 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 check.
Check, check. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, make this bigger.
Okay, so we look okay. That's fine. Transfer live. Okay, what is this one? Custom RCN. It's D-Live. D-Live always seems like it's having issues.
It's so new. I haven't used it enough. My usage is falling off.
Still an issue with D-Live, huh? What do they want? Server URL, server key, server this, server that. Oh, okay, we don't need that one on. Take that one off. This is the one we win.
Monero hard fork. That one's interesting. I didn't know really much anything about that till I started reading these. I mean, I knew the background, but.
Yeah. Well, we have 38 seconds, so I can't get D-Live to work. If I can't, I can't.
It's showing us is live here on Facebook.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome.
That's why I got the countdown. We got 23 seconds or so. That's going to cause an echo.
Is that what I was hearing there?
Make sure that's on mute.
Oh, yeah. Good catch.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Captain Crypto Show, navigating the treacherous seas of cryptocurrency to help you arrive at port safely and secure your loot. Here's your host, Kylan Hurt.
All right, would you look at that? I mean, and that is one heck of a animation. We've been working hard here trying to increase the production value. So welcome back to the Captain's Council. It's our weekly roundtable discussion where we discuss the latest and greatest in the world of cryptocurrency. It's me, your captain, Kylan Hurt. You can call me Captain Crypto. And usually we have a roundtable. Today the crew is a little bit sparse. But I am joined by Robert Rivera, who's also known as the town crier of crypto now.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, excuse me. He's always reinventing himself. I guess the rest of the crew, they are out and about, hopefully changing the world for the better. I know Tay's back in Puerto Rico. I think he's starting to actually fall in love with the place. Yep. I've never been there. Have you ever been there?
I've been off the coast of it when I was in the military, but never actually been on the island. I do plan to go this year, though.
Right, yes. So he's, he's definitely a jet setter. But as usual, it is a very busy, it's a very busy week in cryptocurrency, especially if you're someone like me who is a bit of a Monero fan. So I don't know if any of you guys at home have actually taken a look at the news, but recently there was quite a bit of a, not kerfuffle, I wouldn't call it that, but there was quite a bit of news related to Monero because, you see, in cryptocurrency, not everyone, but most of the blockchains start off with an algorithm, a proof-of-work algorithm that lets miners mine new units of their cryptocurrency. And in the beginning, they usually make it pretty easy for the layman with a just regular computer to be able to actually mine. But as time goes on, there are people who have a lot of money who are able to put together some pretty intensive cryptocurrency mining machines. The big one that everyone's talking about is Bitmain. And they are based, I think, in China, and they, cut their teeth mining Bitcoin, which makes sense because that's where all the money's at. And people are saying at this point that they're like the company's worth more than $1 billion. So it sounds like they have a bit of a monopoly on the, on the cryptocurrency ASIC market. So these Bitcoin. Thanks, Camden. So these Bitcoin mining machines, it sounds like they have a monopoly on it. And since the name of the game in cryptocurrency is decentralization, the question is if someone has a monopoly on the best mining equipment for any given cryptocurrency, that can cause major issues. So I was curious, Robert, did you hear very much about this? I know this is kind of Monero specific. I feel like if you know anything about me, then some of it might spill into your newsfeed as well.
It does. It did. I wasn't following it terribly closely,
right,
but I was aware that this was upcoming, and apparently now there's there's been 4 new projects that have been spawned out of this.
Right. Yeah. Because
80% hash drop.
Okay.
Overnight.
Yeah. There's a lot to chew on here. So essentially, last week I think we talked about it a little bit, and I was a little bit hesitant because if you are going to change the code base to make it so that a cryptocurrency can no longer be mined by ASICs, then I was a little bit concerned that if that's enough of a significant change that maybe it could cause, what would you call it? Some consequences that you didn't see beforehand.
Unforeseen consequences.
Thank you. No. Unforeseen consequences. But actually, after talking with some of the people who are essentially thought leaders and technological thought leaders in the space, they said that actually changing the mining algorithm is actually not that critical of a thing. It's something that can be done fairly easy. So if the costs to doing it are very small and the benefits seem like they can be positive, then I started to open up to it a little bit. So the funny thing is, Monero, when they first created it, they said they wanted to make it very memory. I know we're going to get very technical, but they wanted to make it very memory intensive, which was supposed to make it more of a level playing field. But it's been a few years since Monero started out. So when they actually did the hard fork, I think it was last Wednesday, so it was just right, a day after we had recorded our last episode, within like a day or so, the hashing power of the network was down by 80%. And this is a cryptocurrency that at least is or was supposed to be ASIC resistant. So it does give you an idea that you can be resistant for a little while, but then the more resistant you are, if you're a good currency, then there's that much more benefit or profit for someone who is able to properly capitalize on on what you're mining. So
right.
That's 80% hash power loss. Do you see that as a success, or is that something that you should be concerned about?
Well, okay, so what gave me some context on that was that other project, one of the projects that spawned out of the hard fork, which was Monero Classic.
Right.
And apparently they claim to have gotten 80% of Monero's pre-fork hash rate. So, or agreeing with it. So
Right.
it looks like the ASICs might just be turning to
Right, they'll move to something else.
to that. It looks like they're moving to that
Right.
automatically. And so I think they're happy. I think everyone's kind of happy. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's really hard to figure out because there are so many variables that are involved. I would say, I'm trying to think here. So yeah, some of the other currencies will be happy because they'll get more hashing power, which hypothetically makes their networks more secure. So there is some positive there. A lot of the miners can switch. Their ASICs
Right.
can be good at one hashing algorithm, and there might be others that are on very similar hashing algorithms, and they can just switch over. So yeah, it's definitely not the end of the world. And in fact, what I'm seeing now is that people in the Ethereum community are seeing this, and they're scratching their heads saying, gosh, is this what we should be doing? Because it seems like the people in Bitcoin, they have been kind of concerned about mining centralization, but then in Ethereum, their supposed name of the game over at Ethereum is decentralization. So there's murmurs, and I would not be surprised if within the next year or two you see Ethereum doing some sort of hard fork to, as I call it, to swerve the ASIC manufacturers.
Right. I mean, amongst other things, they have.
They have a lot of things coming down the
well,
pipeline, right?
Plasma, Casper.
Right.
There's like just 4 million things coming down the pipeline. Let's see what actually makes it down the pike.
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of exciting times, especially if you're like a miner, if you're on a CPU, maybe not a CPU, but if you were using a graphics card on Monero, and maybe before you were not seeing much profitability, but immediately after the ASICs leave, then the amount of competition goes down and you start seeing your profits. I've heard some people were getting like double profits, maybe even a little bit more than that. So I think the idea, as I understand it, is if let's say every 6 months or 2 years or 1 year, they do another hard fork so that anyone who has created a recent, finally found a way to create an ASIC for a cryptocurrency like Monero, then they can keep on swerving, and then eventually people will give up. They'll say, okay, well, what's the point of even trying to make an ASIC for this cryptocurrency?
It does get cost prohibitive at a certain point to mass manufacture all these specific ASICs,
Right.
or ASICs for specific cryptocurrencies.
Oh,
and then
for
to
sure.
Have them turn around and kind of do a swerve.
Yeah, and if no one else is swerving, then it's like, okay, well, let's just go for the
How many rounds
low-hanging
of that
fruit.
can you do, before people kind of give up on that?
Right. It makes sense to go for the low-hanging fruit, I think. Okay, so I think that's enough on that topic. We will see how things go during the next, I would say, month or so. I think we should keep our eyes on what's going on in the Monero community, but definitely the people I guess I say Monero because now I guess there's Monero Classic too. There's Monero V. So I guess when your cryptocurrency is popular enough, eventually people like to fork it and make their variations of it. Sometimes for good reasons, but sometimes not. Okay, so for those of you who are watching us live, we are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, we are on Periscope, and we are on DLive. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them. We'll try to get to them. We do like to interact with the community. If you haven't liked our page or subscribed it, go ahead and do that. All that good stuff. We're trying to be as, as interactive a show as we possibly can. I should also mention just a little bit of an announcement. It's been a while since I did my last Sink or Sail episode. The last one that we had done maybe like a month or two ago was on EOS, where me and the chief architect at Edge, William Swanson, went through the white paper and critically analyzed it. And I just released maybe like an hour or so ago the newest episode of that sort of format where we talk about, this time it was Nano, which used to be known as Ryblock. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and right now it's on YouTube. I'll be adding it to the other platforms as I get the time to do it. I know Robert has noticed, and some of you guys who've been actually watching the video might notice I've been adding some more some animations and some more production value to things. I mean, Robert, this studio, it's slowly changing, isn't it?
It's becoming something else.
It's becoming
awesome.
It's becoming an actual studio, and I'm not even close to done yet. We have a lot of good stuff coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned because we are going to try to continue to surprise you with more and more improvements. Okay, so this next story is one's a little bit more personal, a little bit less of a global story, at least for the time being. As I announced last week, I actually started a meetup here in San Diego. It's a San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup. So right now I'm the main organizer. I am working on trying to find if I could get an assistant or someone to help me out, because at this point with the podcast, the full-time job, and now a blockchain development meetup, that is a lot of work. So I can use I can use any help that I can get. But so we had our first event last week. It was one of our full-time employees, Eliran Zach, who's I believe he's originally from Israel, one of our senior developers, and he gave a presentation on, on how to interact with Bitcoin from the command line. And it was pretty cool because it's pretty, Bitcoin seems like one of these magical things that runs on code, and most people don't know how to code. And granted, you probably can't just be the complete beginner and jump in, but it was surprising how accessible some of it was. You download the right Bitcoin client, and then you can start typing things in and start interacting with it. Start making private keys, making public addresses, sending money around. We weren't on the main network; we were on the test network. But it was cool to finally see one of us give a presentation like that, and the feedback was really positive. Now, as an organizer, I was pretty much pulling my hair out. I will say I've never done something like that before. Even if I dot all my I's and cross my T's, there's always the question of, okay, well, will the presenter do well, right? Because you can have everything set up well. Maybe your presenter either doesn't show up, or is sick, or is late, or just doesn't really is tone deaf. But that's not what we experienced. We got a lot of good feedback. A lot of people asking us if we would be willing to do it again, like this week or next week, to do it as part of like a series.
I was
if that makes sense.
Is there a recurring schedule that this is going to be happening at? Because I know that some of the meetups when I first moved here, they have like either the first Thursday of the month, or they have every single Tuesday night or something. So what's the deal with that?
Yeah, so the deal is
I want to really go. Well, I was sad when I saw the social media post, and I was like, oh man, I wish I would have known about this.
Yeah, I know Jackson was there. He's one of the co-hosts. So obviously a lot of people at Edge, or who are close to us at Edge, went and experienced it. I think the turnout was, I'll get to the turnout in a moment, but back to what you were saying with regards to it being part of a series, that is what people want. They want to continue. You get a little taste of how to interact with the blockchain, and then it's like, okay, well, what next? So I am talking with our presenter, Eliran, to see if he wants to continue doing it. He does. But getting the schedule, everything sorted out, the organization stuff that I'm supposed to do, I'm learning, I guess, the hard way, that a lot of it's not super easy, and I don't know, it can be stressful whenever there's time involved, especially scheduling stuff.
It's all logistics, and there are a lot of external factors you can't control when it's other people and their schedules as well, and everyone's busy in this space, Everyone is doing 4 things, and that's what makes it awesome, but it also makes it a nightmare for logistics.
Yeah, and one of the things too is we're talking about a demographic. So like, who is able to actually, who's able to actually give a presentation, a workshop, or anything like that on blockchain development. So the big challenge that I think I'm going to see is, okay, how easy or hard is it to find people who are able to actually give a presentation? And there's a question of like, okay, what do the people want? Because I don't always know exactly what the attendees are looking for. Like I know how to do some stuff, but is the stuff that I'm able to do what they're looking for? Is it advanced enough? And also, if we keep on having this revolving door at Edge where it's all Edge presenters, it's not the Edge meetup, right? It is the San Diego Blockchain Development Meetup.
That's just a coincidence.
Yeah, that's what we were having a discussion about that earlier, and there is a point. As long as we're giving people productive information, then it should be a good thing. So hopefully this is the start of something big. It's funny because I'm pouring all these resources into cryptocurrency and just watching the price go down lower and lower, wishing I could buy more.
Right.
But unfortunately, I'm too busy spending money on things. But I think when we put the if there's anything we can tell from the past, it's that the people who are there committed during the hard times tend to reap the benefits during the good times. Right. And the times are good enough right now as is, but I think we both can agree that they will get significantly better and probably relatively soon.
Agreed.
And we're putting our money where our mouth is.
I think it's inevitable, really. The way things are moving, every day there's news. Every week there's news. I mean, Bittrex can't even open registration for more than 25 minutes at a time at this point, which it's kind of weird because they're supposed to have a new website. I thought they kind of worked on that. But it's still nice to see that 25 minutes into opening for the public, there's still an outcry to get on. There's still people who are interested, you know, at least in opening accounts there. I don't know what the numbers, I haven't looked at the numbers in a few weeks for the other exchanges. I don't know what their sign up, what that trend is looking like. But I imagine it's probably still the same, where people are not able to get accounts, new accounts.
Yeah, and it's they're doing fine, I guess. So is the easiest way to put it. So I think we have another story. Did you take a look at? I think it was one about Interledger, Ripple, and Apple.
Yeah. So that broke a couple of days ago, and it sounded like so much bigger news, really, in my opinion.
Isn't that the name of the game for Ripple, though? It's always like, hey, it's a partnership, another partnership. They're always vague about the details. Like this one's like, oh, Ripple's partnering up with well, I guess it's Interledger, which I think Ripple owns or has some relation with.
Well, Interledger is like it's the ledger. It's just the software. It's the program, and then Ripple is the cryptocurrency that is native.
XRP.
Right.
See, these are the things you have to be careful.
Well, these are the things that trip you up completely with this project, just in semantics alone. But XRP is the native token of the Interledger protocol. But
so that's the name of the protocol.
But anyone can use it, and anyone can create gateways and do everything that you can do on the Interledger. Do with Ripple, you can do that with fiat or with another cryptocurrency or another digital asset. Or in this case, it looks like Apple might be preparing to do something like that, but I wouldn't imagine anytime soon. You know, I would imagine that like Amazon buying those domains, this is just kind of a precursor to kind of see what is possible for them to do internally, because they're a very closed circuit company. They're not really interested in sharing.
And the one thing that I did notice is they mentioned in the article that Apple had some difficulty finding partners for like payment, how would I say it, for payment processors. And if we're talking about Apple, one of the biggest companies in the world, having problems integrating with payment processors, that should give you a little bit of a hint that, hey, if you're, you know, whatever sort of cryptocurrency, because let's be honest, right now, cryptocurrencies have even less clout than someone like Apple. Everyone's trying to get on Apple's platform. So the idea that...
or Google's, like one or the other, like snapping it up for a Google Pay or an Apple Pay is kind of the dream right now.
So the fact that there were payment processors who were not that too inclined to get integrated with it shows you how difficult it is. Like it seems like the payment processors realize that they have the upper hand right now, and it's up to everyone else to convince them to take them on, because there's no, at least that's what I'm seeing, right?
And what are their alternatives at the moment? Like what do they do now versus, you know, some of the offerings in the crypto space, and the implications of those offerings could mean a lot of money. Like we have some comments here on the Facebook group. Yeah.
They're talking about the Interledger protocol. New coin was created on the ILP. I don't know if they mean new coin like XRP or like a different Interledger protocol.
Well, you can create your own tokens on Interledger protocol ILP. So like it's really just, it's like a payment processor. But for anyone.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed with Ripple, at least, here's the thing. They're doing all sorts of partnerships, which is fine. But until I start seeing it in my hands, knowing that it's actually working and not just behind closed doors, but actually in people's hands, then at that point, will be a little bit more open to what Ripple's doing. Because otherwise, it seems like there's a lot of, how would I say it? When your news, the news that comes out is very markety feeling. And as someone, I used to do digital marketing. I think you're familiar with the space as well.
I do.
Yeah, there you go. You kind of learn to sniff out what different language means. But in general, I do hope if they are working on something great, I do wish them the best of luck. I just hope they keep some of the core philosophies of cryptocurrency in mind.
I just feel like it's so funny at this point because everything is a marketing kind of gimmick here, and they blur the line between the company and the token. You know,
but on purpose. I'm pretty sure,
and with no guilt, no shame. They let that line stay blurred, but they are doing things. They are making cross-border payments. We have some commenters here on Facebook who are talking about Santander And that's true. They have made cross-border payments. Santander Bank partnered with, I forget whom, and it has been making payments. And other people are using IOP. So it's not but, again, Ripple itself has been around for a long time.
They pivoted. They used to be working on consumer, more like person-to-person payments, and for whatever reason I don't know if they couldn't figure it out or they just decided it wasn't worth it.
It wasn't working.
Right.
It wasn't, and I believe it was in the 2000s, so like 2004. They've been around for a long
Ripple's been.
time.
They were, I remember people talking about them as a cryptocurrency back when it was only like Bitcoin, Litecoin, and like a few others.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they're making a heck of a, run at the pivot. But we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyone's going to wants to use XRP. Like, and Apple doesn't want to use that internally necessarily.
Yeah, and I think.
But they do want to find ways to put down costs.
Yeah.
And crypto does that.
Yeah, I mean, they are looking for ways to scale with payments. So I think in general, we're going to find the people who are big Ripple fans, I think especially a lot of them found out about Ripple, maybe in the last 12 months or so, and they hear of all these things that are going to happen, that are just around the corner. The question becomes, how far can they lead the, I guess you could say, the investors on before they actually need to start showing some concrete big progress? Because I think they're getting close to that point. I think in 6 months, you're going to start seeing people either, if they're
lose interest,
jumping ship if there isn't more progress.
Agreed.
And granted, things don't happen overnight here, but on the how would I say this, on the order of magnitude of like a year or two, you should see at least some sort of significant developments.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not a Ripple, I'm not an XRP person or anything, but they have had a string of positive news over the last year and a half.
Right.
It really has been consistent, and their quarterly reports released are usually pretty impressive or good reading. They have it's a reason why they're still kind of, I guess, at all competitive, is because they have a good position at the moment.
Right.
But they're just not really breaking into the crypto overall, community as much as I'm sure they wish they could.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, within the next year or within the next 6 months, I think, so they need to, it's going to be time to put up or shut up, essentially.
All right.
So one of these things that I'm going to go over, well, let's see here. Which one do we want to do next here? Pull the rock. Okay, yeah. So we all love conspiracy theories. I wish Brett, hey, Maverick, I don't know where you're at, man. You missed out on this one. So apparently crypto something news. Anyways, everyone's reporting the same thing.
Bloomberg.
The Rockefellers and Soros are starting to apparently put money into crypto. Is there anything to this, or is this just,
hedging?
I mean, Rockefellers at this point, I was reading the article, they're like, the Rockefeller family has over $1 trillion between the, all of them. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of money, but this family probably has like, they're probably talking like the cousins of the cousins and stuff like that. Are they still, do you think the Rockefellers are as much a force to reckon with in today's world as some of the conspiracy theorists would make you think?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's conspiracy theory to cite how very wealthy that family is throughout, history.
Right.
Their history. They just have a very easily tracked history, and it's very well known that they've been very rich.
Right.
So I don't know about conspiracy theory there, but I do think that they have a hell of a lot of money to put a hedge on crypto.
Right.
And I think that's what's starting to happen here, especially if they have vested interest in the banking system, vested interest in a number of industries that blockchain is claiming to potentially disrupt.
Right.
You don't fight. Sometimes you don't fight the enemy. You get ahead of them and legislate ahead of them and try to finance ahead of them and reap the benefits of that attempt at revolution over an industry or a system.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the organizations. So it's not like one specific Rockefeller. At least the article that I'm reading isn't. It's not like one specific Rockefeller or a couple of them or something like that. But they have an actual venture capital firm called Venrock. And, essentially they're starting to put money toward, I guess, startups and other sorts of cryptocurrency-related organizations and businesses. Do you think when they have their money coming in, is this something where we should just be happy that it's money coming in? Or is it something where you need to be a little suspicious of what their intentions are? Or is that just irrelevant because we're not talking about, like, these people probably are just normal people that just have money at this point?
Well, I think it's always healthy to be suspicious.
Right.
Suspicious equals staying alive.
Right.
But It's a double-edged sword. I think it's positive to have big names coming into crypto and wanting to invest, to show interest in a new digital asset or in a new class of product, rather, from that high level of the social financial hierarchy of this world. It's important. It brings a lot of attention to it. It makes people who look at these figures as role models, it makes them interested, and that spreads through their networks just like everything else. So I think that's positive because it will bring more legitimacy or to the masses for crypto. If Rockefeller's doing it, you know, that's the oil guy, like, it's going to be good. So in that way, yes. But in the other way, like, I'm not very interested in any project that is going to be funded by them.
It's almost like they tend to
most crypto, I think, is going to laugh and just pump and dump it and try to make money off of it because, you know, they don't exactly... When you think of decentralization and the crypto kind of ethos and then the philosophies therein, you don't really think of Rockefellers and Soroses.
Right.
So I think they'll be rejected at the market level by crypto people.
Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether, you know, the organizations that they invest in end up getting anywhere. I guess at some point the establishment needs to jump on the bandwagon, right? And to be honest, if you want to be a technology that might disrupt, but it gets lots of adoption, then a lot of times you will need to, you'll end up with some strange bedfellows at times, I guess.
Right, like, you know, like Facebook sending their data to the Koch brothers in the future to help secure.
Have you been watching that today? I haven't.
I've been very busy at work, so I've been trying to catch snippets of it and via Twitter and everything else because too busy, but...
Yeah, everyone's talking about it, but for me, it's like, okay, they're doing stuff with our data. Like, this is a surprise? Like who's surprised by this again? Like,
zero surprise.
And the government's like, oh my God, are you doing this stuff with this private data? It's like, dude, you guys are like the #1 client of the data. Like, what are you talking about?
I feel like they were really just trying to figure out if their data matched. They're like, do we have everything?
So in column A, do you have like,
Is it birth dates for you too?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking here at the comments. Jason Redden, I don't know if I said that right, asks, what is your take on the pullback? I assume he's talking about the prices and whatnot. From bad news about government regulation mixed with tax season. I keep on hearing this. A lot of people are referring to tax season saying, oh, you know, everyone's cashing out their money, they got to pay their taxes. Maybe that's true. I will say, I think at this point, a lot of people, I know they had some regulations or some rules or guidelines where they said even crypto to crypto transactions can be taxed based on based on profits essentially. But the truth is, I think things are still so early. I feel like a lot of people are just gonna kind of brush aside whatever their whatever they owe for taxes for crypto. And to be honest, I was expecting for tax season, maybe I do things differently from everyone else, but I tend to get money back, which would go into crypto, which would help crypto. But maybe some other people like to owe money. You know, they end up owing money and then they have to cash it out.
There's a knowledge gap, I think, because I was reading some, you know, I don't know how true they are. It's on the internet, so 100%, of course. But some stories of younger guys who weren't really familiar with the tax laws and wound up selling at the end of 2017, but not having the actual liquid funds to cover the taxes that they would incur.
Was this on Reddit? Was
this
a Reddit post?
Yeah, it was like 50 grand in taxes.
So I was reading through that post, and I don't think he actually got a letter from the IRS. He was suspiciously quiet about who told him he owed that amount. And some people who actually seemed like they knew what they were talking about were saying, like, maybe his accountant told him this, because at this point it's like, okay, well, what financial institutions were you storing these cryptocurrencies, which exchanges? Because if you're not giving names, then it throws quite a bit of suspicion into the story. He might legally owe stuff, but that's very different from having the IRS come to you saying, hey, here's the amount that you owe. Where is it?
And I definitely didn't get enough background on the story because I'm just like, this is going to be very common.
Yeah. For sure.
I'll wait for the expose by like a long article of it.
Yeah, and it's the way I see things too is, while there's not clarity either, it's like I'm pushing things back. Like I'm asking for like tax extensions and stuff like that.
Right, the 6-month one.
Yeah, it's like, why wouldn't you? Especially if you think crypto's down. I mean, the math would be pretty simple on it. It would make sense to.
Well, and you know, to that point, because I was actually going to bring that up. I was also, you know, going around the interwebs, running across this kind of advice, and this isn't personal advice I'm giving to anyone. This isn't tax advice nor financial advice, of course. But they were suggesting doing a tax extension, the 6-month tax extension, and I believe that's Form 4868 in America.
Who is this?
This was just around the web. This were a variety of
like people. Just
a variety. It was more of a signal kind of thing, not so much of a specific handle. And the idea was you might want to consider the 6-month extension because with the myriad of interpretations about what crypto actually even is, or what Bitcoin rather actually even is, there's so much likelihood that a lot's going to change in 6 months from here to October.
Right.
And by the time October comes, we might have a better idea of the way it's actually going to be taxed.
Right.
And so you don't get caught up in the, having to pay back taxes or having to wait for them to pay you back or any number of possibilities.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like waiting for the IRS to pay you back. I have a feeling those letters don't get, the checks don't get overnighted to you.
Right.
That's going to be my wild guess.
I'm sure it goes into file 13 there in the wastebasket.
Yeah, I'll give it to whoever. Yeah. Let's see here. So okay, Coinbase last week announced that they are starting a venture capital fund. I get tired of talking about Coinbase, so if you feel the same way, let me know. But do you think, is this a major story or not? They didn't mention how much money they're going to be dedicating to it, which to me is like, okay, well, this. I'm not going to say it doesn't mean nothing. I'm sure it's great that they'll be investing, but they're even with as much money as they have, they're only. I'm not going to say they would be a large player, but there are a lot of large players in cryptocurrency right now.
There are. Do you remember when Coinbase did that dev scholarship thing? And when they first, this was
how long ago?
A few months. This was in the last few months, this year, I believe.
Oh yeah,
and they were offering at first $2,500 to the dev, and everybody
for anything or just
for
in general.
In general, and everyone on Twitter was like, a dev can't even make it to your office for that much. Essentially,
right.
Everything required, and so after pressure, they upped it to 25,000.
Right.
And the joke was that they forgot a zero or something, but I don't know. I feel like they don't represent crypto. Them making a venture capital anything is just like anyone else doing it, like Novogratz or anyone else. It's just another person doing it. They do have name recognition in the consumer Bitcoin purchasing kind of online thing, but I feel that they're losing that. That's just now. And now that more and more people are getting involved, I don't see Coinbase being, unless they pivot, like I think they're trying to do. Chances are they're trying to become like the Fidelity of the crypto space.
Yeah, one thing that concerns me a little bit as well with people like, like Coinbase or organizations like Coinbase is if the future is one where the government is going to want to tax every little thing that you do in cryptocurrency, that's just going to give people a ton of incentive to just stay out of stuff like Coinbase.
Right.
Like you would want to use...
Stay off the grid.
And I hate to plug my own company, but at Edge, we don't ask you anything about your personal information. So it's like your financial life and your personal life, you can kind of create a little bit of a gap or a wall in between the two. So in the future, if doing stuff through our app makes it so that... how would I say this? So that it's harder for people, third parties, to track what your transactions, whereas on Coinbase, they're reporting it to the IRS and whoever else. You do have to wonder if in the long term, Coinbase will still be as big as they are now, 5 years from now, if they don't pivot into something, I don't know, into some other area.
Given the way we give up our privacy rights, gladly in this country.
But when you're talking about getting taxed on it,
right,
then there's money on the line, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't report their cryptocurrency transactions. I'm just saying that a lot of them probably won't, or they will prefer not to.
If the historical trend holds, then I guess there will be 100 people in America who report them.
Yeah, isn't that hilarious? So for those of you who are wondering what he's talking about, I think that was do you know which tax year that was?
That was 2016.
2016, yeah. So there was still a decent amount of people into crypto, but yeah. So what was the number? 100 people actually filed the cryptocurrency-related portion of their taxes out of probably millions of people, probably in the low millions, or maybe high hundreds of thousands, at least in the U.S., who were involved in cryptocurrency. I don't know off the top of my head whether it happened to be one of those 100. You know what I mean? My memory escapes me. But if you have any questions, I'll give you my attorney's number and you can talk with him.
I know Piki.
Okay, so if we're going to talk about regulations, this one was one that kind of like made me want to vomit. I guess most of our viewers are probably not living in Poland, but so we'll keep this one short since it's not relevant to everyone. But this is just like how would I say it, an example of how not to regulate things if you're trying to encourage innovation. Poland recently decided that they were going to clarify their stances on taxes related to cryptocurrency. And essentially, it sounds like they're taxing it at every chance that they can get. Like how would I say it? If you switch between currencies, if you go fiat to crypto, if I send you money, I'm trying to think. Let me make sure I get this right. So even if you send money to someone, there's also included in there like property taxes somehow.
1% levy on the total amount for property tax.
Yeah. So this is the opposite of what you want to be doing. And I guess the prime minister has been quoted in the past as saying that cryptocurrency is a Ponzi scheme. Which is not anything new to us. We hear that stuff all the time.
It's a mantra.
But it does give you an idea of what kind of stance their government is taking. So I don't know how big Poland is with regards to cryptocurrency, but you would expect any cryptocurrency money in there to be either going underground or going outside of Poland now, right?
Well, they actually set up a petition, and
yeah, I saw that.
They're aggressively fighting this thing. And the interesting part of this is the response from the government seemed to be almost trying to walk it back a little bit, saying that that's the way that the current guidelines are interpreted. So for crypto, technically, with the current guidelines in place, this is how it shakes out. You get taxed 400,000 times on for everything.
Yeah.
But that hint, that quote at the end, kind of intimated to me that they're going to be taking another look at it. And I think it speaks deeper to how countries are doing this, because South Korea had some issues, and then their people, the crypto folk over there,
kind of fought back, right?
Fought back, and with petitions, with words, with threatening to drink poison in front of buildings. I mean,
that was one? I didn't hear that one. That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was one of them. And we're seeing countries that are doing the opposite are actually starting to reap benefits from this environment. Now, we won't see, huge benefits on the order of how much gold is being traded or anything like that.
Right.
But eventually we will. That snowball is just going to accumulate, and we'll see very clearly in the world who is, interested in innovation, decentralization, and these kind of empowering tools, and who is really interested in totalitarianism and censorship, and who is really interested in keeping their people in control rather than, expressed and free.
Right. Yeah, and another, if we're talking about sorts of crackdowns too, and this is another minor one, but in Canada, there are some of the major banks are cracking down on cryptocurrency. So if they see you engaging in cryptocurrency-related activities, fiat to crypto, crypto to fiat, they are, not all of them, it seems like only one or two out of the 5 major banks up there are cracking down, shutting down your account, stuff like that. I guess as long as you still have 3 out of the 5 to go to, then you can still, move around and do stuff with crypto. But hopefully this is not the start of a trend. I did notice, if we're talking about trends, it seems like when we get this news about bans and regulations, a lot of the time it's wrong, or later you find out,
or it's walked
back, true, or FUD, or it's walked back. I wonder how much of that is manipulation. People I guess there's different types of manipulation. Maybe you're just doing clickbait headlines because you want to get clicks, obviously, get traffic to your website. But then you also have the pump and dumpers who will create FUD to specifically try to influence price. So I wonder, do you think...
that's nothing to say of state agency actors who are paid to, post on social media and drive narratives.
Okay.
It's a normal thing.
Do you think a person like that is just someone who works for the government, or
a state agency,
but like a regular employee, and they're oh, by the way, if you
1984 Minister
remember
of
where
Truth.
your bread is buttered, but is that their full-time job, or they just, I think maybe they have interests that go counter to whatever. Okay, yeah. I guess there's all sorts of different ways to influence information, propaganda, right? I guess you said you used to be in the military, right? They teach you that? They're oh, you want to go into the into the villages and tell them that
No, I wasn't part of the CIA or any paramilitary group.
Okay.
But I did read the CIA data dump and I put a Steemit post about this.
Did you look for yourself there or what?
No, I did not. The data dump was just all declassified old stories. So one of the first ones that caught my attention and I read through was the PSYOP manual for guerrilla warfare that they used in South America.
Okay.
And it details how to infiltrate, these societies, these cultures, ingratiate yourselves to certain factions within the strata of the society,
right,
to make certain things happen to topple the government that you want to topple, the regime change that you're looking for. Regime change you can believe in.
Regime change that you can believe in. There you go. All right, so I think that's enough on the stories. You got anything else? Any other stories you wanted to cover?
Well,
there is a lot of stuff to go over.
There's always a lot of stuff.
Right.
But I thought it was really interesting, the Quebec mining ban.
Oh, I didn't. I don't think I came across this one. You want to give us a little bit of the lowdown?
Well, I just kind of came across it too.
I thought Canada was going the other way, right?
So did
I thought they were trying to.
Philip Coulard, I don't know if I said his name right. Probably not. I'm American, but
the Francis guy.
Right.
Yeah. So he was trying to get involved with starting up a mining thing.
Right.
Was that Quebec?
I don't know if it was Quebec.
It was somewhere in Canada.
Might have been
right?
Manitoba.
All right.
Anyway, but I was very excited for him. It's just really good work, I think. And so seeing this story just kind of caught my eye. I just wanted to bring it up in case you weren't aware that they're halting new cryptocurrency miner operations.
Yeah, I wonder if it's because they're running out of energy or if it's something where there's other sorts of people crying out about it. Because obviously, this stereotype, but Canada, well, see, on one hand, so Quebec is supposed to be a little bit more lefty. Like if you're in Calgary or Alberta, it tends to be a little bit more conservative and there's a lot of oil money there. So at a place like that, you would expect they churn out the energy. They don't care. Just get that money. But somewhere like Quebec, maybe it's a little more lefty. Maybe they're a little bit more against.
I mean, it kind of sounds like the same thing as Plattsburgh. You have the hydroelectric companies who are basically saying well, we technically have enough power for this,
right?
But we want to hold off because we're worried that if it booms, we won't have enough power.
Right.
To me, it kind of smells a little bit like positioning for financial benefit. Because it's all you cryptocurrency miners now want our energy.
They're oh, sorry, guys.
There's not enough. We're worried.
Unless you can convince us, right?
Unless you can convince us, make us feel better about this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a suspicion, though, and I like to wildly speculate as fact.
Well, yeah, we like speculation here. Right? I think everyone enjoys a little bit of that. So it is kind of interesting because then you have a country where it seems like, and this is another thing I'm seeing when it comes to regulations is, okay, so one area of a country might be doing one thing. You can go the next state or province over, even the next city over, and it can be completely different.
Right.
So sometimes we get this news where oh, it looks like up in Canada they like this or they don't like that. It's nah, it's probably just that part, essentially. That's really the only thing you can tell from. And even that, like we said earlier, you get disinformation. Can't always tell what's going on anyway.
I mean, it's not even in America. It's if you're in Wyoming, Arizona, it's blockchain friendly. But if you're in New York, you need to get a license.
Yeah.
So...
Well, and I'm always happy to hear about mining stuff. Mining stuff going well. I do have a little bit of money invested in some mining as well.
Awesome.
And honestly, man, I wouldn't mind putting more money in it. Although there is a question about proof of work, proof of stake, which one will win out in the end. But I think it sounds like a lot of people think there will always be some proof of work. Or not always, but
Bitcoin.
For a long time. Yeah, they're not even trying. They're not even looking at going in. Yeah.
Why would we?
Yeah, I agree. They are the proof of work experiments. So full throttle, go for it.
Totally.
Try not to pollute too much. It's always difficult when my mom, she's she's more environmentally minded. I'm not saying that I'm not environmentally minded, but she definitely is. So when you have your friends or family like that and they're asking you, well, what about this pollution? It uses up a lot of energy. Sometimes it's hard. You can come up with some answers, but it's usually not good enough. That's not what they want to hear.
Right.
So I do keep I keep an eye on some of the energy consumption stuff.
It is something to be concerned about moving into the future. But the thing I love is that the people who love Bitcoin love it. They love Bitcoin. And if this becomes that big of an outcry of an issue, those brilliant brains that are bringing us such things as the Lightning Network and more to come can turn or, inspire others who are also Bitcoiners to turn toward the problem, to turn to and to fix it.
Yeah, now we have more and more money in it as well, so we can dedicate more resources to finding solutions to these sorts of issues.
Yeah, or we can all just go on Twitter and ask Crypto Cobain you know, for the
Crypto
money.
Cobain.
It's like, come on, Cobain. Come on, Cobain.
See, I feel like you know all the personalities. I'm more like a tech guy, less of a personality guy. So that's like Maverick knows who's who. He does business development though, so he kind of has to. But I don't know. Maybe over time, I'm still relatively new to Twitter, I guess.
You know, so was I. I signed up for Twitter. I didn't use it for a long time. I wouldn't have used it if it wasn't for crypto.
Yeah,
You know, crypto brought me in, and then now it's like, okay, I can't imagine not using Twitter just because of crypto.
Right.
Like Facebook crypto, I just didn't have the same draw for me.
Right. Okay, so I just wanted to point this one comment out here. Camden Higgs says, Kylan is clutch with the pirate beard. I would just like to point out, Camden, that just as recently as a few months ago, you were saying that I shouldn't have started growing the beard. And you said, oh, what happened to your fresh face or something like that. So I would just like to point out that that's a 180. I've won him over with the beard. I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this thing, if I'm being honest. As we go into summer, especially here in San Diego, it's warm and it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But I think I have a specific thing that I'm waiting for before I'm willing to cut it. So I talked a lot about news articles, but I know, Robert, you and I mentioned, we were discussing this before we went live, but so recently I've recorded an episode on Everipedia where I did it solo. It's kind of like a sink or sale episode, but it's just my individual analysis. But before this we went live today, you and I were discussing the possibility of doing some more analysis on, it sounded specific, like we were kind of tending toward decentralized apps. So I wonder if you want to talk with the audience maybe about where do you see that going if we start to do those sorts of formats with you and me? What can the audience expect?
I think the audience could probably expect us to, bring together a lot of resources around the apps we're talking about, the team members working on them, the developers, and the associated news around them, what's new with it, what's not new with it, as well as technical analysis of what it is.
Right.
Because that seems to be the biggest question in crypto all the time. Like,
So
all right,
how does
great
it work?
project, what is it?
What does it do? How does it work?
Exactly.
And I do think that the decentralized app white papers tend to be less technical than like the blockchain, like the actual like core blockchain protocols.
Right.
So I think this is something where I don't think we'll be outside of our depth at all. I think actually with your background, especially with Steam and some of the more incentive marketplace type of applications and blockchains, I think that would be an asset to the show. And I build apps for a living. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the technological side of things, maybe not as much as someone like William Swanson, who's our chief architect at Edge, or that level. But I feel myself getting stronger and stronger in that area, especially as I start to read white papers. I'm actually finding it pretty fun. As recent as a year ago, I would hardly ever take a look at the white papers. But if you find one that's well written, I'm finding that the majority of them are decently written. They're actually pretty fun because you get to kind of take a glimpse into someone's ideas, into their brain,
right?
Kind of figure out what they think they can accomplish. And I think probably one of the best things is you get to kind of see them imagine how things work if they work correctly, what they will be able to do if things are done correctly.
Right.
So I'm definitely excited about it. I like giving critical analysis, and I'm finding that the audience likes that the most. I know they like us, shooting the proverbial, talking about news. But I think there's a lot of people doing that. So anytime we can get a little bit more analytical and let people know what they can expect, and then maybe also where they can put some of their money or take their money out of, then that can be valuable information.
Agreed.
And so for those of you at home, keep a lookout for that because we will be doing some more analytical episodes. I think in general, I'm going to be ramping things up quite a bit over the course of the next couple months, which is crazy to think of because I'm already busy as heck, but Lord knows that the crypto kitties out there all want as much content as possible. You guys are hungry, so we're trying to get you fed. So anything else for you today?
That's it, Captain.
I think we can close it down here. All right. So to all the audience out there, thank you for for tagging along. For those of you who asked questions and comments, hopefully we answered at least as much as we could. Hopefully you got your answers. But I guess until next time, guys, this is your captain and the Bitcoin
town crier
of Bitcoin. Wishing you fair winds and following seas, guys. Set sail.